Hello everyone, my name is mandilynn. I'm the author of the young adult novel Essence and historical fantasy novel I Am Mercy. Today I thought I'd talk about how you know when your novel is finished. So a lot of you may have participated in NaNoWriMo, and if you did, that is fantastic. But the goal of NaNoWriMo is to write about 50,000 words. And while 50,000 words is what we consider to be a complete novel, usually the books that you see published are well over 50,000 words. For example, my first novel, Essence, was 80,000 words, and my second novel, I Am Mercy, was 110,000 words. So with that said, if you plan on taking your NaNoWriMo novel and writing it until it's a full-length novel, you still have quite a bit of work to do. But how do you know exactly when your NaNoWriMo novel has reached a length that you would consider finished? And that's basically what we're going to talk about today, as well as, going through the different drafts and just basically how do you know when your novel is finished as a whole? So if your novel is 50,000 words and you still feel like you need to keep writing, go ahead, keep writing until you feel like that story's completely on paper. You want to make sure your story has a start, a middle, and an end. So when you feel like you have that, you've had your build-up of a climax and you've reached your resolution, everything's all happy, then guess what? You finished draft 1. And sometimes finishing draft 1 can be one of the hardest things because you don't always know completely what's going on. Draft 1 is always the hardest for me because while I like to say I outline, I put in the intentions, I outline, but then when I start writing, I don't outline at all and it's just a mess. So draft 1 will always be the hardest for me. I, for one, enjoy editing. So if you finish draft 1 of your novel, feel free to sit back and give yourself a pat on the back because that's a lot of hard work you have to do. Once you do finish draft 1, let things sit for a while. I dare you to not look at it for a solid month. This is so when you go back and go to edit things, you'll notice mistakes that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. In the time that you are letting your draft just sit, be sure to always have a notebook on you so you can write down notes of anything that pops into your head. If there's a specific scene you feel like you might not have done justice, just write that down so you can reference it later when you go back to edit. When it comes down to editing, don't feel to delete entire scenes or entire chapters if you have to. And with that said, don't feel like you're limited to adding anything. In Essence, I went through 10 different drafts of Essence, but I was adding scenes and chapters until it was published. And in fact, one of the last chapters I added in, it was a whole chapter, and it was just a chapter that wasn't needed, but it really helped flesh out the story a little bit more. So I added in this entire chapter, and it turns out that that's some people's favorite chapters. Every now and then I'll get a message in my inbox or something like that saying, this is my favorite chapter, and I just kind of sit back and laugh because I know that was a very last minute chapter that I added in. Every time you finish a draft, it's a good idea to let that draft sit again for 30 days. That way you do spot those mistakes that you wouldn't have been able to spot otherwise. There's no magic number as to knowing how many drafts you should be going through. I like to say at least 3, but again, Essence went through 4 different revisions before it became a published novel. I can't remember how many I Am Mercy went through. I want to say like 4 or 5. But really, the more drafts you go through, the better. It may seem like a lot of work, but it's worth it in the end. Speaking of the end, there's no way to know whether or not your novel is truly done. I like to say that no matter how much you tweak it, you'll never feel like it's perfect. You could always constantly going back and revising. But there always comes a point where you're revising, but you're not revising as much. You're just making these simple little tweaks, and that's when you kind of get the feeling that you're either done or you're almost done. But either way, you just kind of gotta go with this gut feeling. You will know as the writer, as the author of the story, when your story is done and it's to its best standard. And every time you reach the last page of your novel and you read it, you may get a little emotional, and that's okay because that means you've just completed another step. I know when I was editing Essence, every time I got to the last page, you know, the emotions were riled up because I made sure my last page, my last sentence was exactly how I wanted to end the book. There's something about the last sentence of a novel that's the last thing your reader reads. So you gotta, you know, end with a bang, end with emotion, really get it out there. With that said, I'd like to do a little example with my own novel, Essence. So I'm just gonna read you the last sentence to give you guys a feel. And this is the last sentence of Essence. Then, when I thought it couldn't get any better, I see it, and I knew, only then, that I'm truly in heaven. So that's the last sentence of Essence. Now, I Am Mercy is a little different. I had a whole bunch of short sentences, and I'm not gonna read you the whole, like, little poetic scheme of it because I don't want to do any spoiler alerts because the last page really kind of sums up the novel. I am, however, gonna read the last 3 sentences, and that is, I am life, I am death, I am mercy. So you bet that every time I reach the end of one of my manuscripts when I'm editing, I do get a little emotional. 1, because I know all the work I poured into, but 2, I make sure that that ending is chock full of emotion. And I think that's something you want to keep in mind when you're editing. If you cry when you're editing your own stuff, then odds are your readers are gonna cry as well. Anyways, that's it for today's video. I hope this video helped you guys to kind of figure out when you are really done writing a novel. And of course, after writing a novel, you move on to the publication stage. But that's a whole nother video in itself, but you bet that I've already done videos on that. So be sure to check out my channel and search for self-publishing videos. Anyways, give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.